welcome back. In this video, I'm going to break down how the max crew number is being calculated in Starfield. Because a few days ago, I put out a video about additional spaceship details that you might have missed, and I'll leave the link to that at the end or down below in the comments. But in that video, I did make a call out how crew stations and max crew were not exactly equaling to the same number, as we can see here on this Ares bridge, where there's a crew station of 8, but the max crew is 5. And there's another situation where they're actually moving the cursor over the cockpit and onto a HAB module, and it goes from a crew station of 2 for the cockpit to 4 for the HAB module, but you notice the max crew is 4 down below. So that is what I'm trying to explain in this video. And I actually figured it out when I was wrapping up the video from a couple days ago. So let's get into it. Now, you're not going to like the answer or what I got to show off, but this is where I'm kind of reach out to Bethesda here and say, you should probably look to change this, and I do have a solution later on. So as Bethesda was demoing the spaceship customization in the Starfield direct footage, we only see a handful of components that actually have crew capacity on the left side panel for their stats. Many of the basic weapons seem like they have a crew capacity of 1, but there was a few frames where crew capacity was actually 0.5, like this pulse laser here, or this cannon that actually doesn't have any crew capacity under the stats. And then there are some engine components that show crew capacity of 0.25, like this White Dwarf engine and this Supernova 2000 engine. Now, one of the things that's kind of interesting is it seems like there's actually multiple versions of the game that's actually been shown off here in some of the footage, as if you compare these Dragon 221P MW pulse lasers side by side, you can see that some of the stats are actually different, like hull damage, shield damage, max power, hull, and crew capacity. And the same kind of thing here for the Mauler 104L cannon or autocannon. Now in this case, maybe there is a difference between the autocannon version and the cannon version, but you can see one of them has a lot less information than the other, and it also seems like the coloring is maybe a little bit older, hasn't quite been as refined yet. So maybe there is just different versions in what they showed off. So we'll have to make some assumptions about crew capacity, but the main thing we're trying to figure out here is as they are swapping between HAB modules and they have a crew station of 1, and down below it has a max crew of 2 plus 1. So that would make sense. If you're going to add on a HAB module of a crew station of 1, you would add on 1 to your max crew. But as they look at another HAB module with a crew station of 4, but down below the max crew goes from 2 plus 1 to only 2 plus 2. So something's not adding up here, and I think I got it figured out. So we'll make some assumptions about crew capacity, and we'll say we have 2 lasers, and each one of those lasers has a +1 for crew capacity, so 2 from lasers. And then we have 1 missile unit, so we'll have 1 for missiles. And we'll say our cannon is a pretty low level cannon, and we haven't upgraded it yet, so we'll say it's still a 0. And the engines we looked at were at 0.25 for each engine. We had 2 of those, so we'll say for engines 0.5. And that will give us a total of 3.5. For crew capacity, we'll round that up to 4. So we could have a max crew of 4. Now, just a quick reminder, the Magellan C1X cockpit has a crew station of 2, and as they hover over the Nova Galactic Control Station 2X1, you can see it has a control station of 4, but the max crew down below is also 4, so that doesn't equal. And as they're looking at the Nova Galactic Computer Core 2X1 with a crew station of 1, but down below we see a max crew of 2 plus 1. And then as they look at the Nova Galactic Control Station 2X1, which has a control station of 4, down below you see a max crew of 2 plus 2. And this is already factoring in the Magellan C2 cockpit with crew stations of 2. So for crew stations, we should have 2 for the cockpit. We should have 1 from the first HAB, which will get us a total of 3 crew stations. Then in the second HAB scenario, where we have 2 for the cockpit and 4 from the HAB, which will get us a total of 6 crew stations, but we had a max crew of 4. So what seems to be going on here and how max crew is calculated is it is defaulting to the crew capacity number unless the crew station number is less than the crew capacity number. Now, it might not release that way, but that is the way from what they have demoed off seems to be how it is calculated in the game currently, which is rather confusing and it's not straightforward and upfront. And I would hope that they actually change this. And what I would actually really like to see is 3 different numbers here. So down below in the information bar about your spaceship, I would actually like to see them break apart the max crew number and have crew stations first. That way we can see our total crew stations that are actually on that ship. The second number would also be crew capacity, and the third actually being crew assigned to the ship. Now the first 2 are very important to have those 2 broken apart because it's very difficult to understand which one is your limitation or where you are hitting your restriction, as it wasn't straightforward to figure this out, and this is a pretty early on beginner ship in the game, so I couldn't imagine having to manage this max crew number when you get to later on in the game and you have much larger ships. So hopefully Bethesda does hear this and they do changes before release or soon thereafter release. And if not, I'm sure the modding community will come in and probably adjust this anyways. So there you go. That's how max crew seems to be calculated, and kind of my solution to what is really a simple fix. But that max crew number is a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. So if you want to check out my video about additional spaceship details, I'll leave the link down below, or you can click on it right here on the end screen. Alrighty, take care.